Thank you for joining us. We are here. It is the TTT News Special. I'm BK Rossa. Very happy to be speaking with you. And we are actually joined by the Managing Director of Blu Networks Consultancy Ltd, Sheldon Paul. How are you doing, Sheldon?
I'm good, DK. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. And this conversation is something that is very timely. We're looking at infrastructure solutions enabling the transformation. So with
Yes.
with a title like that, I want to jump off and ask for your definition. When
Mm.
you hear defining digital transformation, what springs to your mind?
Change, strategic advantage, doing things differently, survival from a business perspective.
And in terms of getting a company ready for that change, what are some of the things that go in? Because, and I asked that question, what are some of the things that go into that change? Because it's very easy to be working in increments when you see something coming down the road from a distance. But when you have something like the pandemic, just basically mashing up, upsetting the dolly cards,
Yeah, a
and you have
rush.
all these things to do on the fly, what are some of those things that you need to do?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the pandemic because digital transformation has been around for years, DK. This is not something new. All right. Digital transformation theoretically means using technology to make your business more competitive. And that requires change. It's just that the pandemic has forced that because, many organizations can't open the doors, they can't go to work, etc., etc. We have to abide by the health regulations, but businesses still need to survive. So to answer your question, what comes to mind? What are some of the things that you consider? You need to look at, first of all, what do we want to do as an organization? All right. Where do we want to go? What are our issues right now? What are we trying to achieve? Focus needs to be placed on strategically what the organization wants to achieve. After understanding the strategy, then we look at putting the technology pieces in place to support that strategy, right? But, but we're in a position now where many organizations are reacting. So unfortunately, DK, that thought process or many of the thoughts around that scenario, many things aren't done. So it's more of what do we need to do? How fast can we get this done? What do we need to put in place? Just get it there. We need to open. We need to continue to work. And you know what? Rightly so. But therein lies, many of the challenges that we see coming out of this rush to transform.
And I laugh because one of the things that you said kind of stuck with me, and this is basically the idea of strategic implementation. Because
Yes, sir.
sometimes it feels as though if you throw money at the problem, you're going to fix. If you throw people at the problem, you're going to fix. And or you just kind of throw as many solutions against the wall as possible and hope something sticks and you
One
work
way stick.
forward from
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah.
and and I want to continue using the example of the pandemic, please, in the sense
Mhm.
that what are some of the things that you've seen? Because you spoke about people being reactive, but what are some of the challenges, for want of a better word, that you've been seeing thus far? And how does Blue come into play to help address those challenges? Because we haven't gotten into what Blue does as yet and what are its offerings and
Yeah.
its offer trees,
Yeah.
but we will get to that. But what are some of those challenges that you see?
Okay, and again, very good question. The most common challenge that we've seen coming into the pandemic, remote work, work from home. How am I going to sustain my staff? They can't come into office because you can't congregate, but the organization still needs to move forward. So remote work or remote access or VPN technology, whatever terms you want to throw at it, that was the fastest thing coming at us in terms of, you know, requirements from businesses. And it's a very, very valid example because it's practical. Let's say we have 15 employees on our frontline, DK, and those employees would have traditionally delivered service to a certain amount of customers. But we now have to shift as a business our focus. How do we continue to deliver service to our customers? And you know what? We can probably do this online, but your users now have to work from home. What is going to be required to allow them to work from home and to allow them to work securely from home. So remote access was one of the most common problems coming at us. All right. And the other part of your question with respect to how can we help? There are different technologies that will actually allow for secure remote access within your environment. And that those technologies or those infrastructure components need to be put in properly. So that's something that we do as well. There's another scenario that again is very common. Many people would have moved to collaborative applications like Zoom, like Microsoft Teams, and so on, because again, we're trying to work beyond the constraints of the environment. So you and I are sitting here talking over Zoom. They have businesses right now having board meetings over Microsoft Teams. The thing is though, the infrastructure within your business or within your home itself has to be able to support voice and video over wireless infrastructure, because it's not the same as you plugging in your device when you go to the business, right? Wireless is totally different to wired technology, but the average person or the average, person going to work, they wouldn't understand. This decade that it will function, but then we realize we turn on 5 and 6 people, all of a sudden my entire organization is doing this, and then we have performance issues. It doesn't work. We need to consider all of those things, consider what we are going to, consider the load, consider the potential for change, and the impact to the business and the customer. So those are things that we do as well, right? And those are just 2 of the most common scenarios that we've seen since the pandemic and the drive to change the way businesses operate.
And we want to speak about some of those other scenarios when we return from the short break. We are speaking with Sheldon Paul, Managing Director of Blu Networks Consultancy Ltd. And realize we didn't get into what Blu is at its core as yet. So stay tuned for that. We return with more. Speaking with the Managing Director of Blu Networks Consultancy Ltd, Sheldon Paul. And now, Sheldon, we talk a little bit, but we haven't really gotten an overview, a little history of Blu. So take us through that, please.
Okay, so Blu Networks is a telecommunications integration company. What is that, DK? So essentially, we are an organization that focuses on working with businesses to fully exploit the use of telecommunications within the organization. We work with them to sit and understand their requirements, and we bring to the table the most appropriate telecom infrastructure solution. And we need to normally make a differentiation between telecom infrastructure and traditional computing technology like PCs, laptops, and so on. That's not where we focus as an organization. We focus on the infrastructure that's required to take your business traffic from one point to the next, to your customers, to your suppliers. That's where we focus as a company, right? So that's telecom integration. We've been in business for 10 years. This month we'll make it 10 years, right? We have work locally, Trinidad born. We work in different parts of the English-speaking Caribbean right now. Yeah, and we enjoy what we do.
No, I like the fact that you talk about being able to say, it's the 10th anniversary momentarily, and happy anniversary, because 10 years in anything is nothing to sneeze at. But correct. Sometimes moving into an area like this, I could have seen, or I can envisage that there may have been challenges, or you need to start off slowly getting that ball rolling. But now I can see we are at a point where we're dealing with the information age, the blue revolution, as some people might call it, and you're looking back and say, yeah, it made sense to jump on board when we did. What has that experience been like for you?
Whoa, yeah, it hasn't been easy. I mean, there are still challenges. Forming Blu 10 years ago, or actually about 11 years ago, I was having a conversation with my wife, and working in different organizations, I've always spoken to her about making a difference. The challenges that we've actually seen within organizations with respect to telecom, I want to make that difference at some point. And that's where Blu came from. the road has not been easy. The initial years and so on was was filled with challenges where you're ramping up, you're trying to find yourself as an organization, and you're competing with people who believe that you shouldn't even be worthy. All right, but we continue to fight. We have a team now. It's 7 of us now. We have a team, and I would say the journey is not easy, but then again, it wasn't meant to be easy, DK. I guess if it was easy, then, everybody would have been doing it. I could say that we all enjoy it, and we look forward to any challenge that comes in the future.
And I'm kind of tossing up whether or not to get to the event on the 25th or to get a little more of the story. But what we'll do, everything that doesn't fit into this conversation right now, the viewer will be able to get on our digital platforms. And with that said, give me a little information about infrastructure solutions enabling the transformation.
All right. So as we spoke about earlier, the pandemic itself has pushed a lot of businesses to make decisions. We have to continue, because at the end of the day, the goal of the business is to stay alive and serve its customers and generate revenue in the process. That situation forced many businesses to look towards technology. And this is something that was going on all the time. But remember, the pandemic accelerated that, right? And with that acceleration now, you have businesses making decisions just based on addressing the bottom line, right? And many business owners and so on may not be equipped with the understanding to determine what is the best infrastructure technology and so on. So we've also seen challenges where, DK, if you tell me you have a situation and I come and I tell you, well, hey, that situation could be solved by taking your environment to the cloud or moving to Office 365, right? You will focus on what I told you, right? You will move to the cloud, you will move to the applications that we recommended, etc. But what we've seen, DK, is the things that actually make up that overall solution. When you press enter, that data has to move from here to the cloud. Where is the cloud? How does it get there securely? Is it getting there securely? How are my customers going to interact with the environment? How is it going to be secured? How are my users going to be onboarded? All of those things are lower than the application level. But many of those things are not seen by business owners until it has to be, which is normally after the fact. So that is where the event is focused. It's focused on, yes, we know you have to transform, but the infrastructure components, we believe that they're not being considered. And the event will address that. We will walk you through transformation processes, identify cost-saving strategies, bring the people who are responsible for those technologies, cybersecurity, the voice and collaboration, the mobile connectivity, and we're working with vendors locally as well to bring supporting technology. So it's an event for engagement and learning on June 25th from 9 to 12. And it's something that's promising to be very educational and exciting.
I like the fact you say it's 3 hours, because time is money. It is at a premium this time. So on the 25th, for someone to be part of it, how do they register? How do they engage with this process and this access this learning?
Okay, right now registration is via our website. It's all online. So our website is www.blunetworks-tt.com. That's BLU networks with an S -tt.com. So when you get to the site, on the landing page on the site, you will see the event. You will have a tab to click on event details. The event details will speak to the content, schedule, speakers, and there's an option to register. The event costs $170 TT, 25 US. Payments, everything is being made, can be facilitated, on the website. We also have content being pushed out via social media, primarily LinkedIn and direct email. So there are various channels where you can actually get access to the event.
All right, now in the few seconds we have left for the television aspect of it, who is the ideal person to be part of this? Because you spoke about people in the boardroom. Not everyone's business has a boardroom. So who's the type of person that you're looking forward to helping in this scenario?
So business owners, yes. but business owners are normally supported by technology people, technology influencers, administrators, and so on within the business itself. The target is primarily businesses that have been around for 5 years or more, but other businesses that feel they will benefit from it as well are also welcome, but we're primarily targeting business owners and technology influencers.
All right, and with that, we take a short break. For the rest of this conversation, log into our digital platforms. I'm not necessarily saying we're taking it to the cloud, but stay tuned for so much more. Sheldon, thank you for staying with us.
No problem.
If you are looking at this right now, that means that you're tuned into TTT Live online via Facebook or YouTube. We're thanking you. We continue speaking with the Managing Director of Blu Networks Consultancy Ltd, Sheldon Paul. Now, Sheldon, you spoke about engaging local vendors. Who are these vendors, and what's the importance or what's the significance of actually engaging local vendors in this endeavor?
Okay, so when I mentioned local vendors, we're talking about, so the event is split. You have different companies within the event. So we are hosting the event, we are carrying the content, we're bringing a particular curriculum to people, but we're doing that with the support of our international partners, right? Who we buy products from and we get training from and so on. And we're working with local companies, local vendors within Trinidad, whom we believe can bring complementary services and products to the digital transformation process. So the sponsors of the event, the gold sponsor is Fortinet, cybersecurity company, Fortinet International. We have CommScope, Ruckus Wireless. They focus on mobility, convergence, and Wi-Fi. We have eMetrotel, our bronze sponsor. They focus on collaboration, video, and voice. And the partners that are in the event, right now, the vendors that are in the event are Cornerstone Technology Management. That's a project management organization, because project management is very critical in delivery of any strategic initiative within the environment. And we have 800 Tech, right? 800 Tech, they are also focused on digital transformation from end to end as well. So we wanted to bring an ecosystem where the vendor, yes, they will, the customer, yes, we have content to bring to them, but we also wanted to have them understand that there are things that we don't do, because we don't do everything as an organization. So there are companies that we know that they do things that will complement our portfolio, so they are part of the event as well. And it continues to evolve, DK, so we may have more than that pretty soon.
And I like the fact that you speak about that evolution, because sometimes you may have a fix for a solution, but because of how you've basically kind of plastered a saw, you're not able to necessarily scale upwards, or for when things get better, or you have a little more wherewithal. Is that something that you're going to be taking into consideration? So I guess that also leads me as well to the question of what are some of the things that you're going to be covering? I mean, you spoke some about it already, but take us a little more through that. Thank you.
Okay, so the event, based on the partners that we have in the event, it's structured different topics. So the event will start, I will start with a feature speak on trends, why we're here. So we'll actually be creating the frame for people who are part of the event to understand the challenges that we've seen and some challenges that they brought to us, put it into context. We'll move on to a panel discussion by Fortinet. So we have 2 experts from Fortinet, and that will be moderated by myself, and we'll go through that panel discussion where we include engagement with the customers as well. Then we move into breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are where we actually roll up our sleeves and get dirty, and we explain and demonstrate the different technologies, right? So Blu Networks has a breakout room, Fortinet has a breakout room, eMetrotel has a breakout room, CommScope Wireless has a breakout room. So we have different options for the customer to go to. As a matter of fact, when they register, they select a breakout room. Following the breakout room now, we have other features. We have another feature speak by eMetrotel, followed by the networking and exposition side of the event, DK. The vendors that I spoke to you about, the local partners, as well as the international vendors, they all have booths. The booths, the expo booths are used to actually work with the customers, networking, take your leads, have conversations with the customers and, prepare for transacting business. And the breakout rooms are focused on actually learning. All right. So the event is tiered differently to allow different benefits during the 3 hours that we have.
And I like the fact that there are those levels, because 3 hours is a nice time to blow your mind and get you all excited. But at the same time, if you don't have, or if you don't build those links during that 3 hours and to say, well, if I have a problem, if I have a question, if I want to conduct business with you, this is how I can reach you. These are the channels I need to use. It's almost as though you fill someone's belly full on Sunday, and then on Thursday you tell them, remember how nice it tastes? Well, remember that and let that keep your belly full. So in terms of the building those networks and that communication, how important is that for you to make sure that, yes, people come out of that 3 hours excited, but they're also channels that people can consistently follow incremental steps towards better?
Correct. And you're absolutely right. Having an event, to be very frank, DK, anybody can say that they're having an event. What we've seen lately is the increase in PowerPoint presentations, the increase in people walking away from events saying, wow, I just spent 3 hours and I have no idea what I just learned. We've actually pulled a group of people around the table, DK, to create something that is so dynamic. It is not a webinar, right? We always pounding that into our heads within the organization, because delivering the message is one thing, but increasing engagement and having the customer feel like they're part of something and telling a story is another thing. And we want the event to be memorable, but we also want it to be, the word I'm looking for is a value. It must not be a normal 3 hours, DK. It has to be something that you come in with one understanding, you leave with, probably enhancing that same understanding, or you leave feeling fulfilled. That was important to us. So, yeah.
And this is a nice spot to close it, but I want to do like Oliver Twist and ask for a little more, because one of the things I hear not necessarily said as yet, and that's why I'm going towards it, is that in many cases, there's a normal way to do things or to carry out things, but that normal way may not be best practice or the safest way, especially with regard to cybersecurity, some of the added amount of people on digital spaces and places. Where does that factor into the whole equation?
It's a huge part, DK. One of the if not the most prevalent concern for businesses now is cybersecurity. That cybersecurity takes a huge chunk of the event. We didn't want to make it a cybersecurity event because there are other areas of infrastructure, but cybersecurity is very critical, if not the most critical right now. So it is very important. We want people to understand that cybersecurity is not just about infrastructure. It's about a way of life. You have to think about being safe. You have to look at your users' trends, understand what your users are doing. You are giving a user a laptop. What are you doing? You're essentially extending the walls of the organization to a user's home. How are we managing that? So cybersecurity, and that's just one example, but cybersecurity is a huge focus of the event, DK, because at the end of the day, the Caribbean right now has been hit by a lot, and these threat actors continue to move. So we believe in educating the customers about the threats and the solutions to mitigate those threats is something that we have to do. We have to do.
And I refuse to pile question on top of question, although I have questions. I'm feeling like Baron. All that I have is questions. But what is nice about this, though, is that it allows us the opportunity to take that natural break now. And after the 25th, we come back and ask some of these questions. Because one of the things that I have burning in my mind, and I'm not going to ask now so that we can chalk it up to the next time we speak, is how much is enough with regard to drawing lines, output versus physical presence? how much does somebody owe you when you're working remotely? Okay, so you're using my equipment and you're doing stuff remotely. So that means as soon as I get blue ticks, I want an answer. But we'll talk about that the next time we speak. So thank you very much, Sheldon. And we want to thank you. Yeah, man, and we want to thank you for tuning in to the TTT News Special. Have a blessed one today.